cloud. Okay, so good morning, everyone, and good afternoon, or actually good evening for Michael, because it's already late in the afternoon. So today is our last Germinator session for 2022, and I have kindly got Michael to join us. For those of you who registered, I hope you read the short bio, but just a brief, I guess, kind of context. I know Michael and Imran and Nicole from InStage for several years now, actually. It's like, feels like a lifetime ago. We've met, actually, I first met Imran when he was pitching InStage at an incubator in Mississauga, which was the U of T Mississauga incubator program called iCube. And he was so spectacular on stage that I had to just go there and shake his hand and chat with him and learn more about InStage. So that's how I kind of got, acquainted with this team. And I guess I'll let Michael tell his story, because as a co-founder, you know the rest of it, or before of it, I guess, because we didn't know each other then before. So Michael, thank you for joining us, and we would love to hear more about how you started InStage, what the process looked like, and everything in between.
Okay, right on. Well, it's nice to meet everyone as well. And Imran is the guy who usually gets sent to these things that involve public speaking, because he is such an expert on it. He has a real natural talent for public speaking. So back when we first started up InStage, he joined very early, like within the first few months of the project. And the first thing we tried to do to kind of raise awareness was go to all these pitch competitions. So we used to brag about them, but now it's been 4 or 5 years since we did a pitch contest. And but he won at least probably 10 or 15 of these pitch contests, and you get the really big check to take home and all that. It was a pretty cool era, and that's when we first got going. The product was a VR product. So I guess to just back up a step, should I go, like, is everyone here familiar with InStage, or should I give a quick overview of that? Or
well, I was going to ask if you want to also give a bit overview of InStage, and I think the benefit of that is for people to appreciate the brand compatibility of going to pitch competitions.
Yes, yeah,
with InStage as a concept.
Yeah, it was like one of those meta sort of things. But basically, InStage, the origin story for InStage is my wife joined Toastmasters about 5 years ago. And if you guys aren't familiar with that, it's where you go to like a public speaking group, and once a week you sit around a circle and you make a presentation, and everyone in the circle kind of judges your presentation. So every week she would show up to these and be kind of freaking out about her presentation, just nervous about having to talk in front of the group. And so she would always practice in front of me or the dog, and you sort of see the dog behind me there, but she would practice in front of 1 or 2 of us. And it didn't seem to be a good way to do it. And at that time I was getting into VR, and I thought, if I could make a VR simulation where she put on a headset and she's in front of an audience, at the minimum it would prevent me from having to hear her practice every week. And at best, this could be kind of an interesting product to help practice public speaking. So that's really when it got started, because I have a long entrepreneurial background. I could explore any of that if there's any interest there, but I was basically looking for something to get into at that point. And this is right when VR as a technology kind of came out at the consumer level. And it really blew my mind. And this was around 2016. And I figured there would be an insane amount of use cases for this. And some of that has come to fruition and others haven't. And maybe it was a little bit too early to be looking at that in 2016. But that was kind of the combination of wanting to get into a new venture and seeing my wife have this problem of practice is kind of the original seed of it. So anyway, I built an audience, a VR audience. She put on the headset and she actually used it to practice before Toastmasters. And after that, we started to shop it to different schools. And by shop it, I mean just do free demos where it was sort of like, check this out. Like, what do you think of this? Is there a potential use case here for your students? And we did this all over the place. So we would do it for companies, for public speaking coaches, sort of. We were on the trail of looking for product market fit very early on. So we would have these demo days where we would invite anyone we could get to just show up somewhere, put on the headset and give us their feedback on, did they think this could be useful in their arena?
Michael, quick question.
Yeah.
This is something that came up in a few discussions or conversations I had with entrepreneurs and students. What was your day job back then? Were you actually working full-time and this was on the side, or was there something else that allowed you to shop this around without getting paid for it?
Yeah, I was working full-time. The job I had prior to this, I was ran the operations of a company you might be familiar with in Vancouver, DECO Windshield. Have you guys, you don't see their tents in parking lots? There's a few out there, but I ran the operations for that company. And I did it for about 7 years in total. In the last 2 years, I was really just transitioning out of that because I'd done it long enough. It was time to move on. And so the company was small enough that it made sense to keep me around while the next generation of management was trained up on how to run this thing. So it was during that time that I kind of had enough time to get into another venture while still keeping a paycheck coming in, but also running that operation. So at that point, it wasn't quite full time for me running InStage, but there's still enough hours in the day to do this. So that's how that came about there. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. So I could just keep going on with InStage, but is this interesting or relevant to this group, or like, does more of the origin story help here?
So why don't we? I'll kind of lead you to a fast forward hyperspeed to the pandemic, because I know that created a really interesting challenge for you, and for people to kind of appreciate the need for pivoting and flexibility.
Sure.
So just kind of fill in the blanks. You started with physical VR sets.
Yeah.
Showing up in colleges, universities, and places for people to engage with that physical VR.
Yeah.
And then there was COVID.
Yeah. So we sold these, we called them VR kiosks, and we sold dozens of these around Canada to both schools and companies. And it was this VR unit that sort of sat in the corner, and it had we used the HTC Vive, which has to come with a full PC, gaming level PC to operate the thing. So this was a kind of an expensive piece of equipment. And schools would buy one or more, and they would put it in essentially a computer lab. So, and companies did the same thing. And what happened as soon as COVID hit, of course, all the schools shut down. So access to those VR units was completely cut off. And it was kind of funny because when COVID first hit, everyone thought, oh, this is going to be a golden era of VR, but it was actually the death of enterprise VR, in my view. Because if people can't access the units and it's in a sort of a lab situation, then their VR didn't make it to the point where people had a headset at home, or at least most people didn't. So COVID happened too early for that to be like a trigger moment for VR to take off. After a month or so of COVID, when we realized that this really wasn't going to go away, we had customers cancel deals. Literally, we had a customer ask for their money back after they had all the equipment and everything deployed. It was a disaster for the company, to be honest. The product simply wasn't going to work, and there was no time in the near future where we thought this is actually going to sell again. So we basically had to decide, are we just going to shut this thing down altogether, or are we going to try to find a different way to deliver the same sort of content and hope that VR comes back in someday? So we of course chose the latter there, and we basically took the same simulation, but we went through 3 or 4 different generations of trying to get it to work through a browser. So the 3D content remained and we could preserve a lot of it, but we had to basically find a new way to transmit it. So the first way we tried to do that was, or I'll skip the kind of long, boring version. The first way essentially was through Zoom. So we would run InStage just on a PC, and we'd connect both people kind of automatically through Zoom, and you would actually do the simulation over Zoom. And that had a million problems that would come up. But then after that, we basically found another way to stream it directly to through the browser. So then the product evolved to a browser-based product that is the same thing we basically use today. What else could I add in there about that pivot? I mean, is there any questions about that? Actually, it'd be good to hear if there's any like gaps in understanding here. Is there any thing that
How
would be
did
useful?
pricing change from doing a unit in a physical unit where you had to have a PC and a headset to, did you go to like a monthly subscription for InStage on getting access to practicing your presentations on the browser, or did your entire flow change when that happened for
The
getting?
entire pricing structure had to change. Prior in the VR days, we would sell the actual kiosk, and then it would come with like a maintenance or basically a monthly subscription or annual subscription for us to keep running the software. And that came with basically unlimited access to the unit. And then when we transitioned it, we turned it into more of like a SaaS model where schools paid per student for unlimited access. And the price, of course, went way down from what we were used to before. But the big advantage was our scalability, or opportunity to scale went like way higher, because I mean, these VR units cost between like 10 and 20 grand just to bring in. And then there was a cost for it. And then at most schools, they had a staff member who actually had to help students use the equipment. So the costs just kept piling up for the school to actually use these. In retrospect, I'm surprised that we got it to work in those years. That's just how hot VR was at the time, I think. Where now we can run thousands and do run thousands of students through in a weekend. And that's something that would not have been even achievable by VR without like north of 100 units in the field. Wow. So really almost every aspect of the company had to change to support that pivot, from the way we were marketing, selling, even like we had to re-engineer the way it worked, even though it was the same sort of 3D avatars, everything had to turn over. So we sort of think of it as like 2 eras of the company, because the thing had to be reinvented, because the pivot is usually when it's a slight tweak in what you're doing or a good adjustment. This was felt like a brand new company to do it this way. So yeah.
Like the Phoenix.
Yeah.
Rising.
It felt like that. Yeah. But today we're happy with that, because now it's a lot easier to sell than it was. We can have clients, basically we have clients in the States now, which would have been a real challenge before. There's a lot of advantages to running it kind of as a proper SaaS product now than something that comes with hardware that we would always have to maintain. So we're still like have our eye on VR, but we're not as like, we were just counting down the days when VR would return. And now I'm looking forward like 2 or 3 generations of VR to see when the right opportunity is going to come. I still think it's going to come, but I don't know what this group's familiarity was with VR tech, but it's still not good enough. It's still too hard to use. There's probably another generation or 2 before it's going to make sense, I think, for a lot of companies to jump back into the VR kind of development. world.
Is there anybody from the online participants have any question or comment? I haven't.
No, so far so good for me.
Yeah, so is this group, is this a group that all want, like, are you guys all like looking to do entrepreneurial things, or what's kind of the makeup here?
It would be a very cool aspect to consider in the future if this opportunity presents itself. I really like how you seems to be a serial entrepreneur with the other companies you started beforehand, and how you were working with DECO, the windshield repair, but you just still wanted to do other companies. So that aspect is very interesting to me. And also with InStage, another kind of general question. I was wondering if you're ever going to incorporate like active feedback through AI, for example. ChatGPT came out recently, and I thought that would be a cool way to integrate actual feedback, and you could do difficult levels of like, I don't know, like high school teacher asking you questions or PhD person asking you. So just wondering your opinion on the development of InStage in the future.
Yeah.
Or part of it.
I was hoping something like this would come up, because I've been going crazy with ChatGPT the last 2 days. I hope everyone here has seen it yet. If you haven't,
Amazing. Yeah.
you should be on top of this, because this, in my view at least, and I think this is shared kind of out there, but this is one of the best technologies to come along, I would say, since VR, in terms of the scope of what this is going to enable. There's no way we're not going to use it. We've actually already begun to change some of our engineering roadmap to adopt it.
Wow.
And we've already started to test with some of the data we have on what could we potentially do with this. And it's truly mind-blowing what this is going to enable for us. So one of the big knocks, or not knocks, but kind of objections we have to overcome selling InStage is that it doesn't evaluate the content of what someone is saying.
Mhm.
So I've personally said in hundreds of demos that when someone says, well, it's great, it analyzes the speech and tells us how fast they talk and fillers and all this, but it doesn't analyze the content. I've said for years now that it's going to be like 5+ years before there's an AI tool that can actually analyze the content and give you an accurate like assessment of it. And I think that probably in the next 6 months, when they release the full version of ChatGPT, that is, if it's not already solved, there is going to be like the tests we've done, it can give a pretty good evaluation of whether, say, an answer to a question is good, a presentation is hitting the main points. It can ask follow-up questions about a presentation, like what I've asked it, what was this presentation missing? Like, what follow-up questions would you have? And it can generate a list of questions that then we can modify to put into avatar voices per se. Like, it's actually been blowing my mind the last few days just playing with this thing. So we are going to be, I bet it won't be 6 months before it's like a staple part of the product that we'll be tapping into that API and using it. It's even, and you could try this yourself, but you can actually ask it to give you a grade score, and then it will justify why it gave you that score with additional feedback. It's black magic at this point. It's just so crazy.
So Michael,
Yeah.
Thinking more about the technology aspect, and I know part of it because we had a project together, and Kenneth Chow is also a professor here at the School of Engineering, and he was involved in that project we did when I first joined UBCO. So I know that some of the background, how does the whole simulated practice goes with how do you create these avatars, how do you record their voice and getting voice actors and all that, but can you give us about insight about the operational, I guess, challenges? What does it take because there's the software, there's the machine learning, there's the voice actors, there's the script, there's so many moving parts. How challenging is it to get it off the ground?
Yeah, I think the challenge is the number of moving parts. And that was the hardest part in the beginning, was just learning enough about each of these parts. So kind of in the entrepreneurial vein of things, I basically had to learn each one of those aspects. So I know I now do the 3D modeling, I write the scripts, I do the we use a lot of AI voice now when we used to use voice actors. Like, I've just had to learn each one of those aspects of it. So now we have a workflow that can execute on that, and I can train other people in the company to like take over those different components. And I think, if anything, that's the only thing that's really stayed consistent with the company since we first started, is I've always wanted that pipeline to be very efficient so that we could turn around and generate more content and kind of custom content as needed. So I guess all the tools that we've used have evolved, and I'm kind of on top of where there's developments in different areas. So it's the speed that moves is one thing. And like, say with this Chat GPT thing, I want to do it like yesterday because I can see the power of it. But now I need to make sure that I can get it to actually work with the rest of our systems. And how does it now work with the reports? How does it change how we create content? So I guess I'm trying to figure out where I could kind of answer your question about, because I could break down each of the parts of it, but it might be a long answer of like these different components, because there's so much to it. But
So look, when we kind of put things in perspective. So I hope everybody kind of get the gist that this is a simulated interview or presentation practice scenario. So me as the student or the user, I'm engaging with a virtual avatar. So there has to be a script for that. And initially you had voice actors, so you had to recruit them and you had to give them script and record the voice.
Yep.
And then there's the script, which again, Ken and I were involved with, what are the questions we want to ask the students. And then there's a machine learning that spits out the report saying you used so, like, too many times, you had too many pauses. And so as a user, I don't see the back end. I just interface with that avatar.
yeah,
But you have to put everything together and then spit it out.
yeah,
And that's a process you do for every single instance, for every single customer, or can you kind of copy paste? So, you created one instance for me and Ken last year. Do you just copy paste it for a course that's close enough, or do you have to go through the whole thing from the beginning?
yeah. So sometimes that depends on IP, and if a client paid for the simulation, then we don't kind of borrow it in other cases. But for the most part, when we're making a simulation, lots of the parts of it are reusable. So we like to look at it kind of like Lego blocks. So we can take different responses, say one of the avatars have, and it's used globally across the whole system. Same with, say we make a new kind of idle animation for one of the characters. It's not like that just goes into one of the simulations. That then becomes like a global animation that would all of a sudden show up in every simulation. So when, say you wanted to do a new version, the only thing, or for a new class or course, and we wanted to do a customization, our customizations would just be limited now to the content that you'd want to put in there. And that would be basically it. And if we paid for it, as like if the company bear the cost of it, then we would reuse it elsewhere if we could. Because one of the nice things is a lot of colleges and universities in Canada and North America, business at UBC will be similar to business at Queen's, say. topics are going to be very similar. The questions the avatars would ask would be similar. So if it works in one spot, we can then shop it to another place and say, oh, it's been used here. This probably will sync well with your class. So there's a lot of reusability we do. So and this is one of the reasons we focused on education versus corporate. Corporate wants 100% of things customized for them. Education is fine as long as it's in line with their course, that the content was just used somewhere else, which does make more sense. So that was one of our reasons for choosing this kind of customer target in the first place. But I meandered away from your actual question there. Did I get that out right?
Yeah, I think so. But
Yeah.
you raised an interesting point, which is intuitively, and people ask me occasionally about ed tech, and I usually raise a big red flag and I say,
Yeah.
just be mindful that if you're engaging with higher education,
Yeah.
the turnaround time is slow.
Yes. Yes.
The person signing for the contract is not the person paying for it, and it's not the user. So you have the user, the customer, and the payee, and they're all different and different level of complexities. So how has been your journey engaging with so many institutions, in North America and outside? How did you find that level of interaction?
Yeah, I mean, slow is the probably the key word of it, is like what, and especially because when we first got going, we worked with both corporate and education. So in the corporate world, if you send an email in the morning, you're going to usually get a reply that afternoon or the next day. And it's kind of rude not to get a reply for like a week or two. In the school world, that's just normal. Like you send an email and you won't hear back for 2 weeks, and that's just how it works there. So the speed is different. The priorities are also different. So especially public institutions, they're not as concerned about the money side of it as, say, corporations, where if you don't have a really good explanation for what is the ROI of bringing in this product, you're not going to get it inside of a company. In other words, are you going to save them money or make them money? If I go to a meeting, even at a higher level in schools, of course, budget is on the list of sort of concerns to talk about, but it's definitely not the first thing that comes up, is like, how much does it cost and what's the ROI? Because they have different priorities. So the bureaucracy is there kind of in both, depending on how big the company is versus how big the school is. But it's the decision-making speed is way slower. And so when we're planning now, it's like, we got to be thinking a year or two ahead, which can make it tough for product development. Because the thing is not going to get deployed usually. Like this, say we develop this GPT thing and add it in. It might not see actual production usage until next September, which is crazy in most kind of startup worlds, right? That you can make a feature change to a product in a retail SaaS, and you can find out next week if it's going to make an impact. In the schools, we have to wait so long. So we have all different ways we sort of work around that, but the speed is definitely the biggest problem and the difference. But the advantages of the school system, I should say, a few of them are, we prefer working with educators and the education system rather than the corporate world. It might just be a personal preference of mine and the team that we just like the people that in the school world more than the corporate world. And once a school adopts it and it's part of a curriculum, it's very unlikely that it gets cut down the road. So the flip side of it taking forever to get in is, once it gets in, as long as it's working and everyone's happy, it's usually going to stay for a long time. So that really matters, depending on what type of startup you're interested in getting into. The longevity is there if you can kind of wait it out to get it in the door.
Right. Thank you. And by the way, I like you and your team as well.
Great.
Any other thoughts or questions?
You made a comment where you said if you added the GPT feature in or integrated, you wouldn't see it would be possible where you wouldn't see use for it in a whole year, like you wouldn't get feedback on it right away. But can't it be deployed on users that are already using the system? I didn't quite get the connection. Wouldn't you know
Sure.
feedback?
It definitely could. So, and that what we would try to put it in front of users without sort of changing the whole experience, because that's not the product that those customers bought. So when I made that comment, I was more referring to the sales cycle, like to show it off in a demo and then to have that customer buy it because of these AI features would just take a long time. I hope we can, and we definitely will get it out there and tested way before a year, but and a year might be too long to say before a customer would use it, but the point was just it takes a long time to get product feedback from the actual buyers of the product.
I see. So, and maybe I misunderstood, but is there not a general user, like, for example, if I were to go search it up online, could I, as an individual, get in practice with the software? Or do you need like companies or schools to get it where they have large amounts of use, like with lots of students?
We only actually offer it to schools and companies, and really at this point we really only work with schools, so we don't have a retail level product right now.
I see.
And that's just another kind of startup-y thing, but it's us trying to focus on a particular lane where one of the things you do when you first get going in the startup world is you target everywhere. Everyone's a good target if they'll buy it, but then the more you get into it, you realize everyone has different needs. And if I have to spend development time for a retail customer, that is taking away from time that could be spent on the education customers. And it's really that simple, is that we have continuously tried to go tighter and tighter to exactly who is the customer and what is the product. So that's why we've dropped companies. We did do a retail thing for a very short time. We've basically dropped that. So the only way to access it is at this point is through a school.
I see. Okay.
And I think this is a really good reminder, and for those who may one day take a course in entrepreneurship, is that companies survive when they become super efficient for a very specific thing, not because they're really good all around universally. So a startup is really trying to find that narrow lane that makes you really good, that you can reproduce this ongoing year over year over year.
Yeah, but I'm more considering with the added possible functionality with GPT. It's so it could potentially answer anything. Like you could give it any kind of topic and it could already respond. You wouldn't need to do like scripts. Like I think that's what you were saying before. It is kind of how I would see it going into the retail space, because anyone can come up to it, be like, this is what my topic is going to be, and it would answer based on that, because it can read your content and then it can give you like Michael was saying before. So that's kind of how I saw it go into that type of space. But yeah, I understand what you're saying.
So what you're missing in that though is the whole business around the technology, which is how do you reach people? How do you build them? How do you support them? Right? Because there's customer service, there's the sales and marketing. Like the whole business operation actually takes up more than just the technology capability.
Yeah, for sure. I understand that.
So I guess going back to Michael's point, which is that would be a new business.
I see.
So maybe you can start a subsidiary.
Yeah.
I think Nick would be happy to pay licensing fee and run your subsidiary for you.
Yeah. It truly would be a new business to target on the consumers. And the other thing, you're going to see this with GPT, especially when they release the API for it, there's going to be an explosion of companies doing similar things like that. So competitively, there's going to be a lot of money get poured into it, and there's going to be a few winners in there for sure, but that is going to be a war zone in terms of startups when the API comes out there.
Yeah.
Hey, Michael, Ken Chow here. Actually, InStage ran a pilot with my class a couple years ago. Alon was referring to it. I've really enjoyed this discussion, especially just hearing your perspectives about really game-changing technologies as they're being released, like this chat GPT discussion. It's fascinating. I'm curious from your perspective. I'm also teaching, by the way, a course right now on immersive technologies. So
Nice. Okay.
I'm doubly interested in your presentation. But from your perspective with this chat GPT, I mean, obviously it's game changer in terms of the experience itself, but like as an entrepreneur, are you excited about it? Not from in terms of market pull, but like even cost savings, right? It's going to save, you're going to have to hire way fewer people to produce content for your experiences.
Yeah.
There's strong reason to believe that the experiences themselves are going to be better. I mean, what's your perspective? What's your main motivation for kind of exploring this technology, and what do you hope to get from it?
Yeah, on a lot of fronts, and that's why I'm excited about it. I think overall it will dramatically improve the product by being able to do content evaluation. I think it will probably 10x our speed in increasing content. And just a short example of that, I wrote a PR scenario for another college recently, a college class, and it took about 2 hours of my time to just write it all out, prepare the questions, put it in the voice of the characters, like just creating that script. I followed the exact same steps using GPT, the chat GPT, where I just pasted in the course outline, asked it to give me questions, and it was literally done in 5 minutes. And it was very close to the quality that I made, right? And I was just like, this is insane that it could do this. And I've barely even scratched the surface on using the thing yet. So I would consider myself like an amateur at giving it the right prompts and like sort of queuing the system up properly. So there's definitely going to be cost savings. The product is going to improve. What else? I mean, I've been one of the main developer on our team. He ran into some problems. We use Unreal Engine as our primary like engine now. I go ask ChatGPT for help. He types in the question and it's spitting out code and giving him feedback and helping to solve the problem he was having. So and I've seen if you should follow it on Twitter, like look up that on Twitter. There's 1 million people posting their examples of what they're using it for. Another one, and this is, I don't know if this is a good use case of it yet, but we've been doing interviews lately and I have to write a bunch of like, sorry, thanks for meeting me, but it's not going to work out. You can have ChatGPT write a great sort of rejection letter for you that's customized to the person. So it's like, one of the general ideas is like, there's almost no point in starting any writing from scratch, because you can at least get it to get you, say, 50 to 80% of the way there with just asking a few questions.
I see a huge market potential for recommendation letters by profs to students.
Well,
Yes.
so, yeah, the amount of time that we spend as professors writing and students, I mean, that's our job. I've never seen, and by the way, I am following Chat GPT because it's rarely do you see kind of a game-changing technology being released and being experimented on in real time.
Yeah.
It's fascinating. Some people are saying it could potentially take down Google just because the interaction is so much more intuitive. So yeah, no, I'm glad it got brought up today, because it's also something that I've been kind of keeping an eye on, and no, fascinating to hear your perspective on it as well. Thank you, Michael.
So there's, I guess, one question that I was curious about, and this is something else that I have had, students in the past ask me about, which is, I'm a technical person, I want to start a company, I don't know the business stuff. How do I find somebody to help me run a business or start a business? Or vice versa, a business person saying, how do I find a technical person to help me, get it off the ground? By the way, I actually quit Twitter. I'm on Reddit these days, and so many subreddits on startups and entrepreneurs, and people ask exactly the same question. How do I find a co-founder to complement my, limited capacity. So what was your experience in setting up InStage?
Yeah, I'm curious to hear what you've read in Reddit about that, because I've heard a few answers to that, and I haven't personally had to do that, because my approach, and I would suggest this even of engineers who need to learn business, you're gonna have to figure out so much of it on your own anyway. Like there's not gonna be like a business person that is gonna come in. Even if I was to say go to work at a new startup, of course I have years of experience doing it, but the tech stack is going to be different, the customer is going to be different, the sales process, everything has to be learned from scratch at a startup as it is anyway. So if you just want to do pure engineering and you want someone to sort of take care of the business, I don't have any idea on how you'd find that right person who wants to do it. The advice I've always got is you're always going to have to learn everything on your own, and you can never hire away your problems. And I get that whenever I feel like, oh, I could hire someone in marketing because I feel like we always could do better in marketing. It's not my strong suit. The advice I get is you're not going to be able to solve problems by hiring someone else to do it. If you're running the show and you're the entrepreneur who's behind the business, you're just going to have to educate yourself and figure out how to do it. And that is a very unsatisfying answer. I know, but I think that is just kind of the reality if you want to get into a startup. Like you could definitely have someone who is more business oriented, but you're not going to find them at business school. That's probably for sure. You're probably going to have to find them are people who are just naturally kind of industrious like that, and they learn fast and want to figure out how to build a business. And I say that as someone who went to business school, right? My peers at business school, I bet none of them are entrepreneurs at this point because it was just not a great fit for me at business school. So I would say it's more of a personality type that you're looking for than someone with a preset kind of a skill set that would actually be able to help you build a company.
So basically what I'm hearing is, and it's pretty much compatible to my worldview, is if find somebody you want to work with,
yeah,
and then figure it out.
Yeah.
Learn along the way,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah, we're cutting close to the hour. Any other questions or thoughts for Michael?
That was very fun.
So when you get started, it's you, Imran, and Nicole, the three of you. So what was the divvy up between the three of you, like the responsibilities, and kind of being mindful that you're all kind of doing everything anyway? What was the wheelhouse for each of you to get things?
Yeah, so in our situation, it's a bit odd because I'm married to Nicole, so that creates a whole new level of things to kind of consider. But the way we thought of it is Nicole will deal with sales and networking, and I will do everything else. And that was how we sort of split it up. And then when Imran came on board, he knew a bit more about engineering than I did at the time. So he would help with those early prototypes, but his sweet spot is more in integration with customers, onboarding, public speaking. So he ended up doing no engineering at all. Like he doesn't even touch it today. Still at this point, I have help on the engineering side, but it's basically, I do everything. Nick deals with mostly her main role is sales, and Imran is more support and customer kind of happiness, customer success. So you'll need at least one person on every team who can, even if they're not good at everything, they're willing to do everything. And on InStage, that's my role.
So so you use Unreal Engine 5?
Yes.
And so all the animation is done on InStage or by you?
Yeah, I use Real Illusion for all the animations. So yeah, I also do the animations, and another cool tech that's coming along is AI voices, and we use AWS Poly for that now. And they're getting surprisingly good at different intonations and pausing properly and different things like that. So it's another sort of combining Chat GPT with emerging kind of AI voice tech is going to be another interesting kind of space to go down.
Do you want to give us a quick preview of something that you have? Like
Sure. Like in terms of AI voice.
Or just the InStage?
or the InStage, like something that kind of show people what it is we're looking at, or
Yeah,
I know I interacted with it, and have you looked up online what it looks like?
When
No?
Nicole showed us, that was the only time.
Okay.
Just one sec here. So this is the kind of post login platform, and I'll just get one of these queued up in the background. I'll show you the PR one we've been doing lately here. And we'll see if you can tell which voices are AI and which aren't. It'll be interesting to see. So this takes a couple minutes to set up, because the way it works is it's actually running an Amazon server that we don't leave on 24/7. So it takes about a minute for these things to fire up and load our content in them.
Wow, you use so many different companies to integrate them together and produce it. That's awesome.
Yeah. It's like in that sense, InStage is a very classic Web 2.0 company where you're like, what are the things the company should actually like, what are the things the employees should actually be working on? And it shouldn't be setting up a server farm or developing AI tech for voice analysis. Plugging into all these APIs is how we keep the company size down so much, where in the past, like to run a company like this, like let's say there's a technology in the early 2000s that could do something similar, probably with worse graphics. You would probably have to have hundreds of people, and we have less than 10 who take care of this whole thing, right? So that's another reason why I know this isn't an entrepreneurship class, but it's truly the golden era of entrepreneurship because of APIs, just being able to plug into tools. And think of Chat GPT. We'd have no hope of developing that internally, right? So, let me make sure here. Shared sound.
You've made it. Welcome InStage. I'm Ava, your InStage host. I will take care of setting everything up. And
do you think that's AI voice or real voice?
Must be AI.
No, that's a real voice. And as engineers, you'll see this switch mesh here. That was a bug that made it all the way into production, so that'll be fixed tomorrow.
putting together a feedback.
I'll skip through this.
Okay, thanks.
So I'll comment on one of the other texts here. And tell me what you guys are interested with the tech stack here, and I can go deep on any parts of
my
this.
name is Edward.
Oh, this is an AI one.
Executive. But I've been asked to help with PR issues lately, and I'm looking to learn more about the PR field.
So AI or real?
That one's AI.
That's AI.
But before we get started, could everyone introduce themselves?
Hello, nice to meet you. I'm Myra. I'm a data analyst here.
Hello, I'm Azealia. Hi, great to meet you. My name is Caley.
Any thoughts on those three?
So hard to tell. I don't know.
I think the colleague is definitely AI.
Yeah, they're actually all AI, all these characters in here now. So
Oh, wow.
that's one of the things that we've kind of progressed into, and it's made it both more cost effective and quicker turnaround to basically rely on AI voices inside of these. Because if a client wants it changed, it used to be quite a process because we'd have to kind of reshoot everything to get that done, but now it can be done relatively quick. The only other kind of barrier, and it's something we are sort of halfway done, is all these animations, the lip syncing you see. There's software that makes that pretty easy to do, but it actually uses a technology in your iPhone. It has to be an iPhone with the right, like a newer one with the infrared sensor or one of the dot sensors on the front of it. And it actually will map, say, my face onto the character's face. So that's in part of the animation
I'm a customer
pipeline.
success manager.
Hey, Michael, how important is photorealism in your application? And like, have you explored, I know you're using Unreal, have you explored things like ZBrush? I know ZBrush can make like really, really photorealistic avatars. And also there's some software now that you can do like almost clothing simulation. So when people move, like their clothes move in a really kind of hyper realistic way. Yeah, what are your thoughts on those?
Yeah, so we this is actually Unreal 4, what you're seeing here. So we're like in the kind of staging environment, we're working on the Unreal 5 version, which adds in all that cloth simulation as part of it, better lighting as part of the next generation, etc. We want to push it as far as we can because we find that the more realistic the characters appear, the more immersed the user gets into the simulation. And there was this conventional wisdom back in the VR days that I thought was wrong, that they used to say that it didn't matter how realistic the characters were. They could be stick figures and they would still be immersive. And I think that was just industry propaganda, to be honest, to justify the poor graphics quality. Because every time that we've improved the visuals, people get more, the ratings of the tech go up, they get more into the simulation, the more believable the characters are. But it's all on a kind of a balance of what if we increase the quality, does that increase our server costs? Because now we need a better machine to run it. How much more time can we spend on doing the 3D modeling, and how high can the resolution go where it becomes, the trade-offs don't become kind of worth it? So that's the world we're constantly wrestling in. I would say that these aren't like AAA game level at this point, but they're pretty high up there given I have no training in it and I'm doing them all, right? So it's pretty they're pretty good given the amount of resources that we actually put into them, that what's kind of possible to do now.
Yeah, no, they're great. I think you know, I've worked with some 3D artists, and yeah, the quality of your graphics are pretty good. I think the key thing though with like public speaking is definitely eye contact. You know, and that's the hardest one to kind of model and simulate and reproduce virtually. So that's why I was curious whether, you know, that was an area of importance identified by your customers, and how I'm seeing kind of these super photorealistic images being generated by different new software that's arising. So
doing those in 3D and not having them pre-rendered is quite a challenge. Like sometimes you'll see highlight clips on Twitter of these incredible environments and people, but those aren't being done real time. Those have to be like pre-rendered, and they're more like a video playing, where these are all rendered in real time.
Yeah.
So that's another limitation that we have to kind of deal with there.
I'm actually doing a research project right now where we're trying to create biophysical models of real-time rendering for human skin.
Right.
So, you know, depending on your emotions, you know, different parts of your face will be slightly pigmented differently. So being able to kind of account for that, and also modeling different ethnicities, it's a challenge. So yeah, no, there's a lot of interesting work that's kind of pushing the boundaries right now.
Yeah, there's projects there's all kinds of next level stuff coming with human realism, mostly relying on like machine learning to help figure out kind of the last mile of all this stuff. So it's an exciting
ask a
field
few
because the
specific
better it gets, the more immersive these simulations get. And in terms of eye contact, in VR, it was the most important thing by far. But in the Zoom world, like even now, my eyes are probably all over the place because I'm never really looking at the camera. I'm looking at wherever the window is and it's screen sharing. So we invested a lot of time in getting eye contact right in the VR version, and we use some of the same tech now, but it just doesn't seem as important in kind of the Zoom era here, for better or worse.
That's a very good point.
Are you using?
Yep.
Are you using same software for creating figures in the built environment, like the interior space?
Sorry, what was that?
Are you using the same software for creating the figures in the interior space?
The same software in like the old version of this to VR versus like the browser version. Is that what you said?
Just to create the interior space in the figures.
Oh, like the background?
Yeah, the background.
Yeah. A lot of them are honestly Unreal assets that we just use to fill out the backgrounds. And you can see in this one that this background is duplicated, and actually see that head in the background. That is Myra, but it obviously doesn't show the Unreal camera. So they're in the same room in this particular simulation.
So Unreal 4 they will scan the tables and stuff, and you can just input them into the background with the avatar. So it does it all in it. It's very
yeah. That's right. And like if this was a proper, like say first person game, you could actually drop a character in here and walk around the room. Like it's a full 3D environment, the way that these are built. And that was another design choice for overall visual quality, even on a 2D screen, but also when VR's time comes back, that we are still working in the 3D space rather than just sort of have a character with a fake background. Like all of this is actual real 3D space still.
You can jump back on the VR train once it comes back.
Exactly. That was part of the idea.
Cool.
Oh, Michael, it's been super fun chatting with you again. And we are just over the hour. So I think we'll let you go.
All right.
And again, thank you very much for joining us. And I think, at least for me, because I've been doing this for a few months now, bringing in people and have them talk about their experiences. And every single one has such a unique perspective on entrepreneurship and a journey that goes in different ways. Yeah, anyway, so I'm learning and still learning, and it's super fun.
Right on. Well, it's great to meet you guys, and good luck with everything, and consider doing entrepreneurship if you're not already, because it's a good era for it. So
Awesome. Thank you very much, Michael.
thanks, guys.
Have a great rest of the day.
All right, you too. See ya.
Happy New Year.
You too. Merry Christmas. Happy New Year. Bye.